Watch NHK World Japan now over the air and on Comcast and Verizon.
Are you a Maryland renter at risk of being evicted due to COVID-19 related issues? Help is on the way with Maryland's Emergency Rental Assistance Program. You may be eligible for assistance in helping to pay current or past due rent and avoid the threat of eviction because of wage loss or illness due to the pandemic. To learn more, visit rentrelief.maryland.gov or call 877-546-5595.
Did you know that Naloxone, also known as Narcan, is a safe medication that can reverse an opioid overdose and save a life? Naloxone is an easy-to-use nasal spray that is available at Maryland pharmacies, and you don't even need a prescription to get it, and it may be covered by your health insurance. You can also check your local health department for availability in your area. Learn how to be a hero and how to save a life. For more information, visit beforeitstoolate.maryland.gov or call 211 and press 1. We are here to help. We are the Maryland Department of Health.
State Circle is made by MPT to serve all of our diverse communities and is made possible by the generous support of our members. Thank you.
Connecting Marylanders to their government. This is State Circle.
Good evening and welcome to State Circle. Coming up tonight, kids and vaccines. Who is lining up and who is holding back? Plus analysis of the Republican election sweep in neighboring Virginia. But first tonight, a wealthy Maryland executive is about to make a big splash in the local news scene. After bidding to buy the Baltimore Sun, Stuart Bainum is starting a new nonprofit news service that plans to spend tens of millions of dollars. We spoke with Mr. Bainum, the chairman of Choice Hotels.
Right now we have 10 staffers in total that have been hired. A couple haven't started yet, but they've accepted offers and will start in the next couple of weeks. And of the 10, 9 are on the business side and only 1 on the newsroom side, because we didn't want to hire anyone in the newsroom until we had our editor-in-chief in place. And we're pleased that Kimi Yoshino from the Los Angeles Times has agreed to be our editor-in-chief, and she'll start December 6th. The aspiration, Jeff, is to have 50 in the newsroom when we launch this, hopefully, and we believe sometime in the second quarter of 2022, and probably about by then, probably 30 or so on the business side, so 80 or so to begin with. And after the first year, after launch, we anticipate having a larger team. In about 3.5, 4 years, our projection assumes that we'll have 100 in the newsroom, journalists and editors and reporters, and about 40, 45 on the business side.
And that would make you the biggest news operation in the state.
Well, actually, the Sun, I think right now, depends on what the Sun will have at that point in time. Right. The Sun has about 70, I think, reporters now, they tell me, and not reporters, but total journalists, counting editors, photographers, and so forth. So yeah, when we got to 100, yeah, exactly. I was thinking about the 50. We wouldn't be, but fair enough.
Have to say, I love the Baltimore banner name, star-spangled name, you might say. It implies a focus on Baltimore more than Maryland. Is that accurate?
Well, we take the name from obviously from the Star-Spangled Banner, which flew over Fort McHenry during the Battle of Baltimore in 1814, during the War of 1812, and we want to carry the banner of Baltimore's tremendous history of journalism, a journalism which punched above its weight for really close to 200 years. We want to carry that banner forward.
Well, what's the ultimate goal of this? How will you measure success?
We have 2 goals. Both are ambitious. One is local, one is national. The local goal is to build a robust local news operation that reports the stories of the people of Baltimore. strengthens our communities in the Baltimore metro area, and holds our leaders to account. The national goal is to do that in such a way that it's a sustainable business. It's a financially sustainable business model that can be replicated in communities in all 50 states.
There are all sorts of ventures. I know you've talked to the people in Philadelphia, publishing the Inquirer there
Right.
in a nonprofit model. What are the lessons you take away from talking to other people who've tried similar things?
Well, there's a lot of folks doing great things around the country, and they've been open with us beginning in June of 2020, when Imtiaz Patel, who's now the CEO of the Venetoulis Institute for Local Journalism, did the research for me, and he went around interviewing people at all these different local news sites, and again, doing really terrific work with great journalists. Some of the lessons they shared, we asked them, what have you done right over the years, and what do you wish you'd done differently? And what they wish they'd done differently was build up the business side in tandem with building up the journalism side. A lot of these sites have been founded by journalists, and they focus on the newsroom. And it's important, they said, and we believe, to also focus on the business side. So with audience acquisition experts, data scientists that understand how to listen to consumers. I mean, all this has to be reader centric. What do the readers want? What will make their lives better? And what will they pay for? Let
me stop you on the what will they pay for, because so much of news has become a commodity. If the governor does something, if a sports team does something, the information is everywhere. So how do you get people to pay for something that they can find generally for free?
Yeah, I don't know that they really can find great local news for free. I mean, where are they going to go to find it for free? I just don't know. Tell me, Jeff, where are they going to find it for free?
Well, I'm really impressed by Maryland Matters, which is a nonprofit startup, and at this point there's no paywall. They're just giving it away, and they don't have 100 reporters, maybe half a dozen, I think. But
Right.
You're planning to have a paywall.
Well, we're going to have a paywall, and we have a lot of respect, by the way, for Maryland Matters. They do a hell of a job. They're focused, as you know, primarily on state government and politics too, and do a first-rate job. And by the way, our aspiration is not to compete with any local news operation, but to partner with them and complement and supplement the good work that different operations like Maryland Matters are doing. It is free. The issue is and some of these in the country are free around the country, a good share of them, but they don't have scale. I mean, the largest one, which is ProPublica, has a $39 million a year budget, but they're national news, they're investigative news, and they do investigations and wonderful work. There's the Texas Tribune, which has a $9 million a year budget. They're focused on the state government, somewhat like Maryland Matters, and also statewide issues, but not local news. We're talking about Baltimore. There's 2.7 million people in the Baltimore metro area. How can people govern themselves if they don't know what's going on in their community? There's nothing more democratic than neighbors talking to neighbors, and when the stories on one side of town are not being shared with folks on the other side of town, understanding, empathy go down, and polarization rises, and that's a prescription for a weaker democracy.
How do you think about the polarization part? Because the easiest way to get attention in a space that has so many different outlets, unlimited outlets, is to be loud and to be partisan. And we're seeing that at the national level. What are your thoughts on, you're a former politician, a Democrat. Do you plan to have an editorial viewpoint?
No, that's up to the newsroom. That's up to the newsroom. This is a public charity we formed. Contributions to it are tax deductible. We're not here to do anything more than objectively report in a robust way the news that's important to people living in the Baltimore area that will improve their lives and give them more visibility about how they can hold their leaders to account.
You've named the parent organization of the banner, the Venetoulis Institute. People remember the name Ted Venetoulis. He was the Baltimore County executive. I worked with him at a TV station years ago. He was our political analyst. He was on the board of the Maryland Public Broadcasting Commission, so we knew him well, and sadly passed away suddenly a few weeks ago.
Yeah, we're going to make more mistakes in this effort than we would have, because Ted was my partner in all this. Ted came to me, I met Ted in 1976. So I've knew him for like 45 years, but we were just acquainted until about 6 years ago in June of 2015. June of 2015, he came to me and asked me if I'd help fund a local digital first, digital only online news site in the Baltimore area. And I turned him down, but he planted an idea that continued to become, it seemed to become more and more important over the next 5 years, as you know, as local news declined to a huge extent. And so I rang him up in June of 2020, 5 years later, and said, look, let's go for this and see what we can do. And our first effort was to save the sun, and that didn't work out. And then we decided when we lost that fight to go ahead and create a local online multimedia platform for to deliver local news.
Well, when can people pick up their first virtual copy, and how can people support the venture?
Yeah, well, thank you for asking that second question, especially. But we anticipate that we'll open up and launch around May, maybe earlier, of 2022. So roughly 6 months, say, from now. And if you have an interest in helping us out, if you have an interest in saving local news, I just ask your viewers to go to the Venetoulis Institute, to venetoulisinstitute.org, and make as large a contribution as you can. We'd really appreciate it. This is not going to work unless we have the community support.
Our thanks to Mr. Bainham of the Venetoulis Institute. Now vaccination clinics are getting underway for children ages 5 to 11. The FDA has approved a lower dose of the Pfizer shot for this age group. Nancy Amato looks at how parents are responding.
I'm grateful that they approved it. We've been waiting for a while for our two boys. We're going to get them vaccinated as soon as we can.
The newly approved COVID vaccine for children between the ages of 5 and 11 has some parents scrambling to make an appointment. Others say they're open but undecided.
We're still going to make sure to talk to the doctor about it, so we're trying to get all the information before we make any choices for our boys and our family.
Others say they've made up their minds.
No way. I'm for choice. If people want to get their 5 to 11-year-olds vaccinated, fine. They have to make those choices for them, their children, their family. But it's not for me and my family.
Frederick County mother of 2, Nicole Blinkhorn, is among the parents who are concerned about possible side effects and long-term effects of the vaccine on their young kids.
We have no idea what components in this vaccine, if any, will have an effect somewhere down the line.
I have heard, of course, through alternate forms on the media, Kids' myocarditis, inflammation of the heart tissue.
My kids are not going to be a live science experiment for this vaccine.
Do more homework and do more research and demand more answers to be able to make an informed consent.
The newly approved vaccine is 1/3 of the dose of adults, and like the adult version, is given in 2 doses 3 weeks apart, and children may experience similar side effects as adults.
The interpretation of safe is still up to an individual. But what we can say is that we have studied this in many thousands of children. We also have a track record for looking at reactions in adolescents and adults.
Infectious disease specialist Dr. Wilbur Chen says he believes there are compelling reasons to get the youngest children vaccinated.
Having children vaccinated will protect the community as well as just the individual. So if a parent is not convinced that their child is really at risk because they can afford to look at the numbers and say, well, only 94 deaths out of however many million children in the US is an okay number to me. If they can crunch that, can they say, okay, well, I'm going to look at my neighbor and say, you know what, I don't care about your risk. I'm just going to take care of my own risk.
Those who are opposed to the vaccine are concerned that a school mandate may be on the horizon.
I've already talked to my 11-year-old, and he knows he will be homeschooled. He knows he's not going to get the vaccine.
An unproven risk or the next best hope to end the pandemic, the vaccine divide remains. I'm Nancy Yamada for State Circle.
Joining us for the Political Roundtable this week, Dr. Cheryl Laird, Assistant Professor of Government and Politics at the University of Maryland, College Park, and co-author of Steadfast Democrats, How Social Forces Shape Black Political Behavior. And also Dr. John Bullock, lecturer in political science at Towson University, and also a member of the Baltimore City Council. Thank you both for joining us. It's been an incredible week in politics. A year ago, Joe Biden, running for president, won Virginia by 10 points. This week, the state flipped and went Republican in the governor's race by 2 points. Dr. Bullock, what happened there?
Well, it really speaks to the vulnerability of some Democrats and some of the language and some of the messaging. And so if you look at what happened between Biden and Trump, there's a wide chasm. And I think a lot of the attempt was to try to frame this as an anti-Trump election, but clearly that didn't pan out well on the Democratic side. And so you're looking at taking a major loss. At that point, you brought on everyone to really stumble on behalf of McAuliffe, and it really just didn't work out for the Democrats.
Dr. Laird, what stood out for you this week?
I think it's really something to think about with the culture wars, particularly around the issues of education, as well as these concerns that parents are having, particularly with the pandemic and masking, as well as the language that's been around school education and what's being taught in schools. I think Youngkin was really able to leverage that information, as well as Terry McAuliffe really not necessarily campaigning on what he is going to do for Virginia, but more so on what Trump has not done for America and how much Youngkin has ties to that. And I don't know if that really played very well, seeing how Trump never came to Virginia and Youngkin was able to kind of visually maintain distance, although he was getting some sort of kind of information and connectivity with Youngkin over the period of the campaign.
Had Trump come to Virginia, what do you think would have happened?
So I think it would have had a significant effect on the voters that Youngkin was able to gain. And from the data that I've seen of the election polls that have come out after, it has been that the white, non-educated, in terms of college education, voter really was a gain place for Youngkin. And it seems like he even gained more than that comparatively to Trump prior. So I think that that was one area where if people are looking for a Republican Party that looks more like what they remember the Republican Party looking like prior to Trump, Youngkin kind of gave that image. I heard one person even compare him to being more of a Mitt Romney Republican than a Trump Republican.
Dr. Bullock, do you agree that the Youngkin campaign sort of threaded the needle in terms of keeping Trump far enough away that they didn't lose a lot of independent votes, yet close enough to get the full Republican base to turn out?
Most certainly, the optics really worked out for Youngkin in terms of how he campaigned. Again, that distance between he and Trump, at the same time, some of those same cultural issues came to play, right? So again, the perspective around vaccines and freedom and parent choice, but also things as it related to education in schools, some of those cultural issues, touch points like transgenders and usage of bathrooms, and that became a really salient point in the final moments of that election. And so I think that also swayed some folks, again, thinking about where they are on those cultural issues, kind of fitting under that more traditional Republican tent, at the same time having a certain gap between he and Trump visibly.
I don't have the McAuliffe quote in front of me. There was a televised debate, and he said something that became fodder for Youngkin commercials about parents having a limited role in how schools work. On the gaffe meter in the history of political debates, where does that stand?
In my view, I feel like the timing of that was just ill-advised. It was a gaffe in terms of how it was framed. I think the point he was trying to make was much more about how we should be relying a lot on our experts in the classroom who are teaching our children, who understand child development, who understand curricular needs, who understand things about our children that even we may not as parents. I'm a parent as well, and I do worry about things that happen in my child's school. He's at nursery school, but I also think that there's some, credibility that I give to the teachers in the classroom. The way it came out, it just seemed as if parents seem to not know what's right for their kids. And in this moment of the pandemic, where people are questioning vaccines, questioning masking, having concerns around the actual curriculum being taught, it just didn't really sit well, especially with the white suburban voter, which is where Youngkin really made gains.
I don't know how much the phrase critical race theory was used in Virginia, but I guess there's a tension there between how honest we're going to be about American history and at what grade levels. I mean, there seems to be some movement there.
Yeah, no, I'll say absolutely. I think we're both nodding our heads because oftentimes the discussion is if this level of candor is happening at the lowest levels of education. And quite frankly, it really winds up being a straw man, but it's put out there in much of a way to really polarize folks. And again, Virginia is a very interesting place. It's a very conflicted history as a place of Confederacy. You think about some of the statues in Richmond that have come down recently. And so again, that really touched a nerve for a lot of people. So there's a wink and a nod to some of these conversations. And again, just that specter of CRT that comes up in terms of what people are learning, the concepts of patriotism, of history. And again, this really was reflected in the conversation around the election. And the last piece that I'll say about these verbal gaffes, again, those snippets are very important. And as an educator, as a father, but also as a political person, I think about how they're used for ads. And so there were a lot of radio ads that came out in the last couple of days, again, that could take that little clip and make it into something larger in the spectrum of the campaign.
Dr. Laird, I know this is part of your expertise. So your thoughts on this?
I completely agree with what Dr. Bullock is saying. I think that the idea that critical race theory is just one of many instances where he's seen that type of language and rhetoric being leveraged as a way to basically kind of dog whistle to and signal to things around race and racial concepts and thinkings being taught in particular places and how that gets received. I think this was an area where McAuliffe probably could have provided some clarification. He probably could have felt a bit more comfortable actually speaking with respect to this. Recently, I heard that James Carville was critiquing the Democratic losses just overall during the election on Tuesday, saying that this was a sign of wokeism gone wrong, essentially. And I would actually kind of push back on that and say that, the base of the Democratic Party is Black and brown. The need to speak to these issues is very critical for the future of the party. Many of the biggest leaders within the party are people of color. And so this is not something that should be kind of stepped to the side, but in fact, something that should be truly grappled with. And I think that was something McAuliffe could have done better instead of the way he came out with the gaffe that he said.
This seems to happen all the time, that when a party takes control of Washington, in the next election, they get shellacked. And yeah, there were some specific issues. Probably doesn't help Democrats that the president's popularity has been plunging over the past couple of months, which, is a complex matter. But this seems to happen all the time. I mean, and how much of it is sort of a law of politics that the pendulum's just going to swing back?
So much of it is to be expected. Again, we know that the presidential party in power tends to lose seats during midterm elections. We get that. But this was a run up to the midterms, which also puts us in a different sort of space. So we're in an off year election. You see these party losses. But what I will say is I think, one, the legislative package, for Biden stalling in Washington has a factor. And then the other piece is really around just issues of pocketbook issues, right? And we're talking about the economy. And so folks are really concerned around things like inflation, food prices, gas prices. And so they're thinking about those things on a daily basis. And I think some of the messaging from the Democratic Party didn't really speak to that, and not having a legislative package of Washington to stand up and say, hey, we got that done. I think that also hurt a lot of folks on the ballot.
Dr. Laird?
I completely agree. And I think, the pendulum swinging is a common thing. If I recall correctly, I think it was in the last 11 out of 12 elections, gubernatorial elections in Virginia, it's always been the opposing party that has won since the 1970s. So the idea that we have this back and forth is fairly commonplace. So the trend has to be noted too. I also agree with what Dr. Bullock is saying with the economic issues that are going on right now. I'm surprised that the child tax credit that's happening, like we are sending $300 a month home to families who are claiming dependents on their taxes. I can't believe that wasn't highlighted a lot because that is an important factor. I mean, when we're looking at the effect of the stimulus as well as this child tax credit, it is supposedly doing a lot of policy work and pulling a lot of people out of that poverty line, right? It is something that is allowing for parents and families to be able to pay their bills every month, and to not really be noting to that and to spend so much time kind of focused on the quote unquote enemy being Trump. It was a lost opportunity. And I think McAuliffe wasn't able to gain ground there, but Youngkin was, because his ads did appeal to many of those concerns and at least address them in ways that were satisfying to both the Trump base as well as more moderate Republicans.
Before we go, let me ask Mr. Bullock to take off your professor hat for a second, put on your Councilman Bullock hat. The Minneapolis vote on policing, shooting down a proposal to reconstitute the police department there. Any takeaways from that for the city of Baltimore?
Right. So, I mean, we're both cities that have issues of conflict and challenge between police and communities. At the same time, there's a significant public safety. So at the same time, where we're, reaching, 300, murders again this year, it's something that we've been concerned with. So on one hand, you want to look at the root causes, and I think that's important. But also in Baltimore, as in Minneapolis, we're looking at alternatives in terms of who responds to folks in crisis, right? Having mental health issues, substance abuse issues. I think there's a more appropriate way to deal with that. And that's something we're looking at in Baltimore. But at the same time, I think folks are not really willing to give up policing from that perspective.
Professors Bullock and Laird, thank you, and thank you for joining us for State Circle. Have a good night.
This program was made by MPT to serve all of our diverse communities.
Programs on MPT are made possible by our members and the following:
University of Maryland Center for Environmental Science, leading the way on Chesapeake Bay restoration, while guiding our state, nation, and world toward a more sustainable future.
Higher expectations, wider horizons, deeper friendships. In the newly expanded Roland Park Place, older adults in Baltimore can find